Hey, what's up guys? Chad here with the Reptile Rangers. Now we're at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center again today, and we are going to talk about an absolutely awesome tortoise called the Russian Tortoise. Love these little guys. Now, before we get into that, right here in this corner, right here, right over there, is our subscriber button. Make sure you hit that, and for those that have, we appreciate you doing so and following along week after week after week. Now let's go right into this. The Russian Tortoise. Russian Tortoise is an absolutely awesome little tortoise. They get about 8 to 10 inches when they're full grown, so they're about the same size as on the eastern seaboard of the United States. We have something called the box turtle. They're about the same size as the box turtle. Box turtles are a little bit more higher dome. These guys are a little bit flatter shelled, but they're about the same circumference. Now, the Russian Tortoise is one of the most popularly kept tortoises in captivity. For one thing, because of their size, they're not as big as like the redfoots or the sulcatas or the, especially the aldebras or even the leopard tortoises. They're not as big as those guys, so they're much more manageable, easier to keep. They don't require as big a pens as some of your larger specimens of tortoises do. Now, with that being said, though, in captivity, there are very few of these things bred. Probably 70 to 80% of the tortoises that you see in captivity are actually wild-caught specimens. And they are imported from anywhere from Russia to Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. That's the region in which they live in. Now, these animals are absolutely awesome in the fact that they do really well in both grassy areas and sandy areas. They actually like both in their habitat. When we set up a Russian tortoise, or even customers of ours have set up these elaborate Russian tortoise pens, they have done a bio mixture of ecosystem, being some grassy vegetative areas, and then they'll also have some sandy areas. They do enjoy and appreciate both. Now, of course, in their native lands, it can get really hot during the summertime, and they can also go through some deep winters. But inside of a habitat, generally speaking, 90 to 95 degrees warm spot is absolutely perfect during the daytime, and about 78 to 80 degrees on the cool end is wonderful. They function, they'll do really well in those types of temperatures. Okay, now their diet is quite varied in vegetation. In their natural land, they will eat a lot of vegetation. If you put them in a garden, your garden's going to disappear rather quickly, like with a lot of your tortoises, and even like the box turtles. They love vegetation, they love fruits, vegetables, and all different kinds of greenery. Now, in the wild, they will from time to time eat bugs, and they'll even eat meat and things like that. Let's say they come across a dead animal. They have been known to forage on dead animals as far as the meat goes, or in the case of there being bugs moving across the ground, they have been known to eat a bug or two here or there. But by and large, the biggest part of their diet does consist of vegetation. As far as the lengthy care of a Russian tortoise, they can live as much as 40 plus years. So understand, when you get any tortoise, it doesn't really matter if it's the Russian, the redfoot, the Hermans, the hingeback, the yellowfoot, the sulcata, the leopard, the star tortoise, the list goes on and on and on. These animals can live for an incredibly long time, so be prepared for long-term care, or long-term captive care, I should have said, in this particular species. Make sure you're ready for the commitment that's going to come behind the long-term care, and make sure there's plans in place in case something was to happen to you, that the animal has an appropriate, suitable place to go to in the event that obviously the unfortunate was to happen. Now, generally speaking, Russian tortoises are pretty incredibly hardy. Typically speaking, most of the time, the only things that you'll ever see most going wrong with these guys could be MBD. They can get some signs of a overgrown beak, especially. We see that a lot in Russian tortoises. Feel free to revert back to one of our videos on trimming a tortoise's and turtle's beak. It was which we actually, I think, show. It was may have been the redfoot, yellowfoot, or the Russian. I can't remember which one we did in that one, but feel free to revert back to that as far as seeing what that looks like. That's another common issue inside of captivity. And MBD is another one, lack of the proper nutritional supplements. So you understand, remember, balanced diet is important. A variety of diet is important because they don't just eat one single thing inside of the wild. And in captivity, a lot of times when somebody finds that their animal eats something and that's what they like, they tend to stay with it. That's not always a good thing. Make sure you're giving your tortoise a wide variety of a diet. Feel free to do your research on what's good, what's bad, what should be done as a staple diet, and what should be done just every now and then. It should not be given on a continual basis. But a diet and a varied diet is incredibly key. Also, proper sunlight exposure and supplemental exposure through calcium and VD3 and other vitamins and minerals. Generally speaking, if you want to try and find a baby Russian tortoise, it can be quite difficult, even though they're one of the most common tortoises, because again, I revert back to what I said before, in the fact that there's very few people that breed Russian tortoises. I dare say the word cheap, but they are such a cheap little tortoise that very few people actually breed them, because unfortunately there's not a lot of lucrative involved with breeding the Russian tortoises. So they are mass imported from their native land to hit the resale trade in the United States. Now that does not mean you cannot find people that do breed them. There are a few people that breed them, so if you are looking for a baby Russian tortoise, it is possible to find them, but it's just not going to be as plentiful as it would be in some of your other species. That is, unfortunately, for the retail trade, that's worth more money. Whenever you're setting up a Russian tortoise pen, make sure to give some depth of soil. These guys do like burrowing. It is something that they do to get either out of the heat of the day, out of the cold of the winter, or away from predation. So they will burrow. You will find, and if you can set your habitat up with already some pre-existing burrows, some tunnels and things that they can go in, they will absolutely enjoy it. They'll utilize that space. And if not, then you're going to find them doing a lot of digging. In a lot of cases, whenever we talk to people about setting up a full bioactive ecosystem, or what we call a full self-cleaning living ecosystem, live plants and all this other stuff, plants that they can have in there with them, of course. But whenever they do that, those plants usually end up getting rearranged because these animals like to dig. They like to burrow, okay? So understand, if you try and set your habitat up and it's just nice flat surface and you start trying to put seeds and plants and things in there, they're probably not going to stay where you put them, because again, these guys like to burrow, okay? So, and they're just going to go down wherever they feel like going down inside of the soil. Lastly, just like always, UV exposure is incredibly important, kind of like I mentioned previously earlier in this video. UV is important. The sunlight exposure is important. So if you have your tortoise on a full-time indoor or in an indoor pen full-time, make sure you're giving it good UV exposure. But a mercury vapor bulb is the closest thing to natural sunlight, and it produces heat as well. So it's a 2-in-1. You don't have to have two bulbs. It's an all-in-one combo, okay? But make sure to understand UV and the calcium is very, very important. Heat is important for processing food, having bowel movements, and also having an appetite to continue eating. And then again, a varied diet is going to be incredibly important for a balanced nutritional intake. Now, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is the Russian tortoise, like this little beautiful guy right here. Absolutely awesome tortoises, incredibly popular as pets. The only thing they don't typically tend to like is being picked up off their feet. Otherwise, they will come when they're called. They'll eat for your hand. They get used to their owners. They are a very, very socially interactive tortoise. A lot of land tortoises are, which makes them an absolutely awesome addition to your household. Just be prepared for what you have to do for them. Now again, we appreciate you following along week after week. Make sure to hit the subscribe, the like, the bell for notification. Our information will be in the description below. Feel free to write us in. Let us know of other things you want us to film on. I've got so many topics people have wrote in on. I'm trying to get caught up on them. I probably never will, but we are getting to them in order in which they come in, okay? So we appreciate you guys writing in. We appreciate you guys following along with us. This is Chad, and we are the Reptile Rangers here at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center. Again, we appreciate you coming along with us week after week after week. We'll either see you at the zoo or we'll see you on the next episode. Later.